What's up there, YouTube friends? Chetter here, back with another video. First off, I hope you're doing well. I hope you're having a good day, and I hope everything goes well for you. Thank you again for joining me for today's video. Today I'm making a special tier list. It's a Kendrick Lamar albums tier list. Kendrick Lamar really doesn't need any introduction. He's a pretty famous rapper, so we don't need to discuss Kendrick Lamar. He's just a famous rapper who's made lots of albums here. I've been going through his music for a little while now. I did want to mention that I'm not I'm not a rap expert or anything. I have only been listening to rap over the last 5 or 6 years, and Kendrick Lamar was really instrumental in getting me into the genre and just opening me up to more rap. And so this is going to be fun to make a tier list of his albums because he has a new one for this year too, so that is going to be included in this ranking. Just keep in mind too that this is not a scientific breakdown of what is objectively the best Kendrick Lamar album. I will touch on that, and I'll comment on what I think is the best one, and how my ranking is kind of affected with that. I'll go into that later. I will discuss objective facts, but more or less, this list is just going to show you basically what my favorite Kendrick Lamar albums are and what my least favorites are. I think a good way to read the tier list is if you and me were hanging out, you said, "Hey, Chet, let's put on some Kendrick. Which album would you want to put on?" And this ranking will show you what's my first pick to what's my last pick, and generally how I've measured them. So that's the purpose of this list. It's just my opinion. You're gonna feel different. Music speaks to all of us different. We have different experiences with it. So I invite you to post your tier list down below, or at least your favorite Kendrick album. Let me know if you think I got anything wrong, or if you think I have any stupid takes. You can mention that too. That's fun. I feel like I have some chetty takes, so we'll get into that too. But yeah, I just invite you to leave a comment below. It's fun to discuss music and just see how we experience it differently. So I'm curious how my tier list is going to line up with the big Kendrick fans. I bet it's going to be different, but I think we're going to agree on some things. So, let's just have fun with this. Let's try to laugh about and appreciate the similarities and the differences, But before we go any further, I will go over some tier list house rules. The tier list house rules is just a funny name for me to define the tiers, explain the tiers and their purpose, and then how I'm going to be ranking the albums too. So just looking at the tier list, you can see that I have at the bottom tier is the F tier, or I've named it the WTF tier just for fun. This is for albums that are skips. This is basically where if you're listening to the album and it's begging to be turned off, right? You're just like, I can't make it through this thing. That's an F, where it's background noise at best. But it begs to be turned off. D tier, I don't think these albums are necessarily bad. The only albums that I would call bad are the F tier ones. D tier are albums to me that I think are lacking or that are disappointing, where I feel like I didn't get what I wanted out of it. It's okay, but there's nothing really, to pull from the album. Most of it's just background noise with some skips is basically, what a D means. A C tier is kind of a weird tier because this is for albums that I think are good, but at the same time, I wouldn't really go out of my way to listen to these albums, and I wouldn't give them a high recommend, right? I wouldn't say, hey, you should go check out this album. But at the same time, I give them a passing grade. They're fine. They're good, right? So keep in mind that I like C tier, but I'm not going to brag about them or go out of my way to listen to them. So that's how you can read that. B tier is for albums that I think are good or really good. These are albums where I'm impressed. They probably I'm addicted to the album or part of the album. I probably don't have any favorite songs on this album, or if I do, it's, maybe one. But, I think the B tier albums are good. This is where I start to recommend the albums. Anything B tier and up is for recommending, but B tier is, I think, just really good, and I really like it. A tier and S tier, are basically means I love it, and I'm pretty addicted to the album. Those albums should have some of my favorite songs, especially the S tier albums. Those are special albums that, contain where I like the whole album, and it contains my favorite songs usually. So that is a breakdown of the tiers themselves. I will also mention quickly how I'll be, scoring the albums, or what will determine their placements. I'm using, I guess, 5 elements. I did break it down into 5 elements, and they're all related too, but basically, how many songs do I like on the album? How much do I like those songs? Are they just background noise, or, do I really like the songs? 3 is related to 2, and probably the most important. Are there any star tracks or any signature tracks? Those are, the most favorite songs you can get from that artist. So, I always use, for an example of this, Beat It for Michael Jackson. I know that's not his only star or signature track, but that's one that, comes on the radio. Everyone usually likes it. It's Beat It, right? So it's a star track. So he has other ones too, but that's a good example of one. So does the album have any star tracks? 4, does the album have any low points or skips? And then 5 would be how likely or how much do I recommend the album, and how, kind of similarly to how likely am I to go through the album again. I guess that's a 6th element, is re-listenability too. So perhaps I should also, mention that. Element 6, re-listenability. So those will be the determining things, and I'll try to touch on those bases. But in case I don't communicate explicitly, that's what the tiers will, represent. So I hope all that makes sense. Without further delay, I'm ready to start the tier list. I hope you're ready to start the tier list. So, buckle up. We will dive in here, even though you don't drive when you're diving in. But, let's still strap in, right? We don't know what we're, brace for impact here. We got some turbulence, some tier list turbulence. So what's my least favorite Kendrick Lamar album, right? We'll go into that here. I'll give you a moment to guess. While I give you a moment to guess, I will say that off the bat, we're moving out of F tier. Kendrick Lamar just doesn't have anything in F tier. There's no skippable albums. They're all good. So we're moving out of F, or even moving out of D tier. There's not a single in F or D tier. So we're going to go straight to C. We're going to start in C tier. My least favorite Kendrick Lamar project is the Black Panther soundtrack. Basically, this one is okay. Most of the songs sound okay or good, but there's just not a whole lot of highlights for me. I just think everything's kind of okay. It doesn't pull me in a whole lot. The exciting tracks are that exciting, and I just don't get a whole lot from this album. It's better than background noise, right? And there was a couple skips on it. There's a couple tracks that I didn't like as much as I thought I would. I felt like they went on a little long, but there was my favorite track from it would be Pray For Me, featuring The Weeknd, which is the last track on the album, on that soundtrack album. That's a good song, but even that one, I just don't love like I do anything else from the other Kendrick albums, right? So that's why it's at the bottom. Okay, moving on. This next one, I'm a little nervous to rank because, I'll give you a moment to guess again. For me, I don't get a whole lot from this album too. I do think the fans like it more. I'm just guessing, with that. From how I've read the internet room, that it's a popular album, but for me, I just don't get a whole lot from this album. This is Damn, actually. So you might be saying the name right now going, damn. But, it's just, I'm sorry. That's just how I feel. This one doesn't do a whole lot for me. The only song that I really, really, really like that I would feel kind of saves the album is DNA. That song, DNA is hype. DNA is awesome. I love DNA. The rest of the album is, I don't know, kind of meh for me, you know, where I don't really like the song Yeah. Loyalty, I'm also not really a fan of. I just think it's okay. You know, it's okay. So it for me has more skip points maybe, or as much skip points as the Black Panther album, but I get DNA off this album. And, you know, the big element for me that I'm always going to be looking for as a, you know, music fan is the star tracks. So if it has highlight tracks or really good tracks, that's what's going to, I'm going to help rank the album higher on, you know, my list. Okay, and now we got some good news. We're moving out of C tier. Those are the only Kendrick projects that I'm just a little, you know, mixed on here, I suppose, where I just didn't get a whole lot from this album. So, you know, Damn, I always pull DNA from, but that's about it. But we're going to be moving on out to B tier. For B tier, this kind of weird way to say this was my least favorite recommended Kendrick album, right? Keep in mind that B tier, I'm gonna be saying you should listen to this album, but we're also on the scale. We're talking about my least favorite of those kind of recommended albums, right? So, what's my least favorite one? I'm sorry, I got kind of another weird one here, but it's actually the newest album, GNX. GNX, just to clarify too, I do put GNX as a B plus. It is a really good album, but I guess my not problem, but understand that I have to be sort of nitpicky with this, is that I don't really get star tracks from this album. I just think it's a really good album. I think it's really solid. Everything is pretty just good with it. It's there's a few tracks, there's 2 or 3 tracks that I didn't really like. One of them was Dodger Blue. The one track I remember I didn't like was Peekaboo. Just wasn't a fan of that track, but I don't get any, you know, big heavy hitter tracks from GNX that will make me go to this album as much as I feel like I should be going to this album, because I acknowledge it's a really good album, but it just doesn't have any of my favorite tracks that I really want to hear from Kendrick. You know, that's why you're going to see more of those tracks in the other albums even below that. So that's why GNX is where it is. Still a really good album. I'm not hating on it or saying it's bad in any way. I just don't really get a whole lot of, it has a couple low points for me, and everything just is really good. It feels outperformed by the other albums, yet it's still incredibly solid, impressively solid, and it's a really good listen. You know, Squabble Up, really good track. Heart Part 6 is probably my favorite track from that album. The first track to Whacked Out Murals, also good. So it's a really good album. But, you know, I actually like more tracks from some of the other albums, including the one I would put above it, which is, it's Overly Dedicated, right? Overly Dedicated is the first Kendrick Lamar album. This is his mixtape, so it's not an official album, but it's a mixtape. I didn't hear this one actually till recently, and it was really good. I was more impressed with it. I liked it more than GNX, basically. I'm going to be, when I'm in a Kendrick mood, I'm going to turn on this album more than I would GNX, is what I'm saying with my tier list, of course. And a song that I would cite as a star track, it's not one of the best star tracks, or even really a star track, it's just a really good song on the album, is, I have it on a note here. It's called Opposites Attract. So Opposites Attract is a really good song. Ignorance is Bliss was good. There's a couple songs I didn't like on it. One of them was Michael Jordan. I wasn't too big on. It wasn't bad, but too big on that one. Cut You Off, I also didn't really care for on that album. So it had a couple, low points like GNX, but I got more out of that album. So moving on up to, we got one more in B tier. Wait, do we? Yeah, sorry, I had to take a look at it. I was like, what? One more in B tier. That is the Untitled Unmastered album. I really like this album. It's close to me loving it, okay? The first two tracks, I love. The first track's awesome, and then track number 2 is awesome. I love those first two tracks. It kind of peters out after those, and it stays good But I have to rate it high because Untitled 2 is one of my favorite Kendrick tracks, and I really love the Untitled 1 also. So I go to this album semi-often, when I'm in a Kendrick mode, at least some of those tracks. The end of the album is also good too. The last two, I think it's Untitled 6 and 7 or 7 and 8. They're good too. One of them's a bit long, but it's still good. It's still fun to hear those ones because Thundercat's on the album. I am a bass player and a bass fan, and Thundercat is a bass hero of mine, and I didn't even realize that he did the bass on that album, which makes sense because if you want to get me to like an album or like the music, just have something like fun going on or interesting going on with the bass and tie that with like a cool interesting drum groove. And I'm a sucker for that. It always pulls me in. So so this album B+. From here we will move on. We're done with the B tier. We are going into A tier. We're getting into our final moments, huh? It's getting we're winding down. We got 4 left here. Oh boy. Okay, well, I am ready to start A tier, but I'm feeling some pressure. So, oh boy. I'm just trying to give you a second to guess here what my next favorite is. Go ahead and take a look. We've only got a few left here, so there's not much to go through, right? Well, the first one is Section 80. I'm going to put Section 80 in A tier, and I love Section 80. Section 80 is awesome. This one grew on me. This is one that I didn't love at first. I kind of just saw it as a weaker Good Kid, Mad City, because I had heard Good Kid, Mad City first, but I like this album a lot. There's a lot of tracks on it that I like. The ADHD, No Makeup, my favorite track, and one of my star tracks that I get from Kendrick, going to be one of my favorite Kendrick songs, is Po Man Dreams. So love that track. That's a fun one. Not as much as, not as favorite as some of the other songs listed in the albums below, but we're getting up to, which albums contain my most favorite Kendrick tracks. So Po Man Dreams, I love that track, but this is a great album, and I would tell people I would give this one a high recommendation. I love Section 80. Did I cover that enough? I think so. Keisha's song's also really good. The end of that album is really good. There's not a whole lot of low points. Even the songs that I don't really care for on that album. There's more I wanted to say because I like this album a lot. Even the songs I don't like as much. One of them was the first one, F Your Ethnicity or Fuck Your Ethnicity. That one, it's okay. Oh gosh, there's another one called Ronald Reagan Era. Is that one that I like? I'm pretty sure there's one track around the middle that I'm just spacing out on right now that I think is okay, but even those low points are they're still good. They're still good in the albums. Like, there's nothing wrong with those songs. They're still good to hear. But I really like ADHD and No Makeup, and especially Po Man Dreams. So, I love going to this album. And now we can move to our next one. This one, I'm just predicting, or I'm guessing, is going to be kind of one of the surprise albums up here. But we're going to go Mr. Morales as an A tier. This is the next pick. I like this one a lot, so much I would say I love it. This one has a stipulation though. I think it's unequal. It's one of more Kendrick's kind of up and down albums. It's not as and it has kind of for me, especially in the latter half, because this album is a 2-part album where it's tracks 1 through 8 and then tracks 1 through 8 again for 16 tracks, I believe. So it's a little long. And there's a part of the middle of the second half. For me, it dives a bit, but I really, 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 when I'm and it's also my most mood dependent album where I have to be in a mood kind of for this. I've put it on sometimes and I haven't felt it, but seriously, if I'm in the right mood for it, and I've gone back to this album, and if you haven't gone to this album in a while, I think it's really worth revisiting. I love Mr. Morales, and I think it has great tracks on it. like it's The Heart Part 5, one of my favorite Kendrick songs. Oh gosh, I didn't write any notes for this one, but most of the first section of the first 8 songs I really love. Song number 7 is called oh my gosh, I can't. I'm so mad at myself. I'm spacing on the name. I'm just gonna put another comedy edit here to mock me because I deserve it, man. I just so frustrated. But there's a track where Kendrick is arguing with a woman, and it's a pretty hard song to sit through just because they're just arguing back and forth for so long. But it has such a dark and sad piano piece that it's beautiful but sad at the same time, and it's songs like that make it really challenging to listen to. So in a way, it's one of his. If it's, I can't necessarily or say with necessity that it's Kendrick's most challenging album, but in a way, I think it is, where it challenges you, the viewer. It's not just going to be or listener. It's not just a passive listen to, kind of like what I get more from Damn or GNX, where they're just, and I'm not saying there's no lyrical value to them. Like, of course there is. This is from Kendrick. I'm just saying that Heart, Mr. Morales and Big Steppers has it's super emotional. It's super, super emotional. And it's kind of a crazy, I see it as an art project album, kind of like the other 2 listed below it, specifically To Pimp a Butterfly. But yeah, I love Mr. Morales. I love going to this one. Section 80 might be a bit more accessible, but Mr. Morales and Big Steppers, I do love this album a lot. And now we are at the point that I think you wanted to get to. I definitely wanted to get to. We're at the, To Pimp a Butterfly and Good Kid, Mad City. So this is this kind of I have an interesting take or feeling on this one, or at least I think I do. So you can comment on that if you want. But I have an answer to this question that I feel is my own, and I will show you that, and I will do my best to explain this here. But the first move is we're going to move out of A tier. We're going to S tier, and we got ourselves a double S. We're going to put To Pimp a Butterfly as the first S, with Good Kid, Mad City as top of S tier. That is my ordering for it. I'll talk about To Pimp a Butterfly first, right? Because I know the Melon guy really likes it. I know it won a Pulitzer, but the album just really isn't saying anything. Musically, it's a little dull. I mean, I thought I was listening to A Cup of Fruit. I'm sorry. I'll edit that bit out. That was that was a bad joke. I'm sorry. I had to ruin the fun there. Leave a me comment below. Oh man. Okay, I'm sorry. All right. So To Pimp a Butterfly, kind of a revolutionary, game-changing album. I don't feel like there's much I can say about the album that hasn't already been said. It's very moving as a political piece. There's so many interesting tracks in there, like Blacker the Berry, I is really good too. One of my favorite Kendrick tracks, period, is Wesley's Theory, right? The first track. I love Wesley's Theory. The track number 2, Free, I think it's called, with a question mark, Free. I love Free. This whole album is just really good. I will say, I guess my problem, or what I compare it to, I have them both in S, right? I do feel like the objectively best Kendrick album, for like a rap history sake, is Good Kid, Mad City. I do think you don't get To Pimp a Butterfly. I meant To Pimp a Butterfly. To Pimp a Butterfly is the one that is the most game-changing. It's the most objectively best one. I just, basically for me, why I put it lower than Good Kid, Mad City is Good Kid, Mad City is my more go-to of the Kendrick albums, right? So T-Pab, To Pimp a Butterfly is more historically important. It's a more I guess objectively special album into, you know, as an item, you know, to show people and stuff. And I would always say that that one's the most legendary Kendrick album, but my go-to is always going to be Good Kid, Mad City. It's more accessible. It basically helped me like rap. Kendrick's rapping was so impressive with Good Kid, Mad City. All of the tracks on there, I like. The only track I don't really care for that much on Good Kid, Mad City is it's the one with Drake. It's Poetic Justice, and this is even before the Drake, you know, beef thing. I'm not really a Drake fan, and the beef was fun to watch, but you know, I'm trying to remove all of that context. It's kind of strange now thinking that Drake even showed up on a Kendrick album, you know, given this current year and the feud between them, but wasn't even a feud, right? It was a slaughter. Go Kenny. So sorry, I'm just being silly, but yeah, Good Kid, Mad City will always be my go-to. It's just the one I want to turn on. I love playing the whole album. It sounds like I'm listening to a movie. It sounds like I have like I have my eyes closed and I'm hearing a movie play out, because there's these records that or you know, tape recordings that play out throughout the album that really tell a story, and even the songs themselves tell a story of basically Kendrick's, you know, experiences in like Compton and just that area, you know, the LA area. So I just feel like I really hear a story with Good Kid, Mad City, and you know, so I'm gonna give it to both of them. They're both S tier. They're both important. I know what I was gonna say. Good Kid, Mad City also holds my favorite rap song, right? So I'm gonna say, for the record, my #1 favorite rap song is "Sing to Me, I'm Dying of Thirst," or "Sing About Me, I'm Dying of Thirst." "Sing About Me, Dying of Thirst." Anyway, that song was my favorite rap song. When I first heard that, I was just completely moved. It was crazy how, you know, that's one of those songs that just like it affects me in a physical, visceral way. So you know, I'm always just going to hold that song in that album that it's from in a special place, you know, in my Chetter heart. So yeah, this is how I just visualize the Kendrick scale, you know. So I suspect you're going to have a different one. I'd like to hear that too. If you have, like I said, anything constructive or anything, you know, trolly to say too. You know, troll stuff's fun. Go ahead and troll me. Let's see your best troll. You know, make me. If you can make me laugh, I might even like the comment, right? So let's give it a shot. But anyway, that'll conclude, you know, this tier list. Yeah, I love these albums. If you haven't heard any of the S tier albums, I don't know why you haven't, but go check them out, or the A tier albums. But that, you know, that will conclude this tier list. Thank you again for your time. I hope you have a great day. I hope everything continues to go well for you, and I hope you take care out there. I wish you the best. I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.
I'm catching a ride, you know it's alright. Catching a ride, we're gonna take flight. I miss the boat, too tired.